Over the weekend, we learned that Apple considered removing the USB-C port from its upcoming iPhone Air 17, but ultimately decided against the move. In part, due to concerns about he might be tired, but he's still beating my dyslexia.
My brain's slow but accurate. Precise.
Due to concerns about how EU regulators would view the move, Apple was forced to switch out of their proprietary Lightning port for USB-C to comply with the EU's Common Charger Directive.
They won't admit that. Apple talks about it's amazing watching how quickly
like an
Apple,
environmentally friendly thing or something.
How quickly Apple changed their tune about how they innovated USB-C on the iPhone. It's like, brother, enough.
Yeah.
Just stop.
In an article on 9 to 5 Max, Ben Lovejoy points out that the Common Charger Directive only states that if a device has a wired charging port, it must be USB-C. European Commission press officer Federica Micoli confirmed that a portless phone would be compliant with the law, noting that since such radio equipment cannot be recharged via wired charging, it does not need to incorporate the harmonized wired charging solution. Crazy.
Wow. So we will probably get a courageously portless iPhone at some point in the nearish future. And you know what? Honestly, I think I'm kind of here for it. It's not what I would.
It's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, it's not what I would choose to buy. You know, given the choice, I would prefer to have something that does have a wired port. But there's always the option of just, you know, buying the Pro model or not buying an iPhone. Both of which are totally valid options. Also, my response to this sort of hinges on the existence of sort of all three options in the market. So the Air, which doesn't seem like it's going to replace the regular iPhone, and then also the Pro. So I would assume you're going to have kind of your portless one, your USB 2 one with a port, so you can actually charge via a cable, but data transfer is slow, and then your, you know, professional model that just has a proper USB port on it. I don't love how much Apple charges for these more, you know, premium versions of their products, but seeing the way that most people use their phones these days, especially iPhone users who are just like MagSafe. Like, why would anyone live without MagSafe? It's just so obvious, and they wirelessly charge all the time. I could absolutely see iPhone users just saying, "Yeah, no, I want the Air." And man, I got to tell you, I think I was talking about this on my show recently. I picked up my iPhone 6S recently. Like, just literally picked it up. Like, I picked it up out of the drawer that I keep it in. And I was like, man, that's light. You know, even my Note 9, compared to like every modern device that I've unboxed on Short Circuit recently, it's like, man, this is sleek. Like, devices they've gone non-sleek.
Yeah.
And if Apple kind of brings that back as a trend, now that SoCs have gotten a little bit more efficient, now that battery technology has improved a little bit, maybe I'm here for it. Because I don't need 2-day battery. I just need solid 1-day battery. With that said, man, I gotta say, the one spoiler that I'll give you guys for the switching to Mac for a month is not thinking about charging either of my devices. It's crazy. Like, dude, I've been using this since I left Singapore, I don't know, 1,000 hours ago or whatever. I used it extensively on the plane just to like listen to something in my headphones, just, you know, drown out crying babies and stuff like that on the plane.
Let's compare.
I got down to like 2% before I had my post-plane, you know, bath, and then I basically plugged it in while I was in my nap and while I was having a nap in my bed. I can barely form a coherent sentence.
You got it.
And then I plugged it into my car on my way here. I have 77%. And it's just like...
So you've done all that. I have practically not used my phone today at all. No calls, no video.
Yeah.
And for probably like 15 minutes of intentional screen on usage time where I was just in text messaging apps like Teams or Slack or whatever else.
Yeah.
That's it. My phone's at 82.
I very, very occasionally will have this behave like an Android, where it'll get like really hot or for some reason that I can't really identify and like behave strangely. Like I've had a lot of weird bugs with iOS 18. I'm not pleased with the software, but not nearly to the same degree that I have with Android.
My brightness is at like 70%.
Okay.
So it was like turn brightness down.
So here we go. I have 17 hours and 31 minutes of screen on time because Plex, I don't think supports, or I don't have it enabled. Maybe it does support it, but Plex doesn't support screen off background play. So if I'm just like, one of my sleep strategies is I listen to reruns of shows that I've watched 100 times, so I don't need to see anything. I'm not actually looking at my screen. I'm just like listening to this content that is fine, but it's just repetitive. It's boring, and it drowns out people talking much more effectively than like white noise for me. And then the other thing is that music will keep me awake 100%. I cannot listen to music and sleep. So TV shows are my go-to for when I'm trying to sleep. So yeah, so you can see here, actually, I've got my battery thing. I have it has no idea what time is for me. So since about 6 a.m. Of the previous day, I guess, 6 p.m. of yesterday, I have 17 hours and 31 minutes of screen time, a bunch of Plex, a bunch of YouTube, a bunch of 18% of my activity is no cell coverage, whatever that means. 11% is Safari, but like that's freaking...
I think that's your cell radio searching for towers, which takes a lot of battery.
Should turn that off. So yeah, that should give you some idea. And then I only have like a couple hours of it since I zapped it. So like, even me being like irresponsible with my phone and not, properly turning off radios to conserve power, like I can get like 16 hours of screen time on it or whatever. I never use my phone that heavily. So I think I said in my switched to iPhone video, I basically didn't charge my phone sometimes for a week at a time because I would just plug it into my car when I'm using CarPlay. You don't have to. It supports wireless CarPlay, as does my car, but it's just a habit that I have, and it meant that I never had to think about charging my phone because I would just...
Regardless of usage, if I don't charge my phone overnight, I'm screwed.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Completely
100%.
I just checked mine. I had more screen time than I thought. I had 25 minutes in Slack. I had 10 minutes in Teams, and I had 2 minutes in Authenticator. I think the reason why there's more screen time is I just put my phone down, but that also means that after a minute or whatever, it dimmed.
Yeah.
So because I guarantee you I wasn't actually using Slack for half an hour on my phone. And that's all it was. And I've already almost lost 20% of my battery life. So like, if someone's like, knowing Luke, his phone's probably from 2016. It's not brand new, but it's an 8 Pro. It's not that old.
Yeah. Pixel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, man, my laptop is sitting here, right? I started the show with like less than half my battery. And it's just sitting here in case I need to use it, and screen's on. It's just chilling. I know it's going to last the entire show. Like if there's anything that I love about just these Apple devices, it's that the battery management is just plain superior. And yeah, Windows and Android devices absolutely can benchmark similarly to Apple. But from my experience in the real world, once you're not in a controlled environment doing like a battery test, right? They just don't handle it as well. They just don't manage background tasks as well.
Yes.
They're not as aggressive. And so once you've got your device loaded up with apps, once you're actually kind of using it, once you have notifications coming in, they just don't handle it as consistently. All right. Bring back replaceable batteries, says Scrappy TP. I mean, that's not even the issue that I'm talking about here. Yeah, Arguin says, just checking, Mr. Who's the Boss did iPhone 16 versus S24 Ultra test, Samsung One. Yeah, there's a couple things to consider there. One is that S24 Ultra probably has an internal battery that's like double the capacity of the iPhone. It's remarkable how efficient these things are, how little battery Apple has to put in these, how little RAM they have to put in them, what Apple will do in their software to minimize the BOM cost of the hardware. And then the other thing is that he probably did that in a controlled environment where both phones were wiped fresh and then tested, because that's and that's not even the wrong thing to do. that's the right thing to do when you are testing something, is you eliminate variables. And so because there's no way to just take two phones that have been, used for 2 weeks and say with confidence that they're in the same equal state, that's how you do it. Argument says that's fair, didn't consider the size of the battery, but you shouldn't. To be clear, I'm not making an argument that the test is like somehow unfair because Apple had less battery. This is the device that Apple chose to ship, so the test is 100% fair. That's like, if I were saying that would be like one of those arguments where, people will complain when you do like a CPU review that like, well, you're comparing against the brand that I like's last generation, so you have to wait until their new one comes out before you can... Shut up. No, I don't. Because for someone buying something today,
this is what's available.
Hypothetical future thing that exists doesn't exist yet. Yeah. So this is what it is. But I don't see that argument as much anymore. But back in like the peak, I think AMD Intel fanboy days of probably like the mid 2000s, it was all over the place, and it was just exhausting. Just exhausting hearing people talk about how the test was unfair to their brand of choice. Like, good Lord, they're not a sports team. You do not need to cheer for them. They're a corporation. For that matter, sports teams are corporations, and you don't really need to cheer for them either. But that's a whole other
and often
thing.
Used for like really shady money practices.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know much about
used
this.
to like make it so you don't have to pay taxes and all this other crazy stuff. It's like,
Sports
why do all
teams.
these rich people buy sports teams?
I thought it was
all
just
care
ego.
about sports, and then a lot of it has to do with like hiding from taxes and stuff. I don't remember exactly how all the loopholes work, but there's like big financial loopholes with having a sports team.
Why is everything a tax avoidance grift?
Yeah.